Hi, this is Sarah Lacey. Welcome to TechCrunch TV. My guest today is Cyrus Massoumi, who is the founder and CEO of ZocDoc. Cyrus, tell us about your news today.
Well, I'm happy to announce that ZocDoc is launching in our sixth major market, which is Los Angeles, which is going live today.
And tell us the other markets that you're in.
Sure. So we started in New York City, and we're also in DC, San Francisco, Chicago, Dallas, and now LA.
So you take on very difficult cities, either because they're New York and they're very congested, or they're LA and they're very sprawling. Do you tell us about why LA was either an easier or harder challenge versus other markets?
One of the things that's interesting about our company is every time we launch in a market, they're all a little bit different. But LA specifically is probably most similar to Dallas, which we launched about 3 or 4 months ago. And traditionally, all of our previous cities had been fairly dense, and we had no idea if ZocDoc would work in a more sprawled out, geographically dispersed city. And we're very pleased to say that our beta testing in LA and the initial launch period has gone very, very well. So we're very excited to launch that market.
Mm-hmm. Now, for people who don't know, the basic selling proposition of ZocDoc is that you can go on the site and very easily, within a couple minutes, get a doctor's appointment, at that moment if you want.
Yeah.
Was there anything about the LA market that made you think this is the next place we have to go, either in terms of need or just in terms of demand?
Well, it's interesting. We've actually crowdsourced how we've picked our expansion markets. So since we launched back in 2007, we've literally let people come online and vote to which market we'll expand to next. So LA specifically was the market that had the most need based on the votes that we tallied. But every major metropolitan area in the United States has long wait time for physicians. I think LA, to see a primary care doctor, sometimes people have to wait upwards of 2 months to find a doctor. And that's the perfect use case for ZocDoc, where you can literally scan hundreds of doctors with a click of a mouse and find the one that has the open appointment time and book that appointment.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've said before, I feel like you guys are like the best kept secret on the internet. It is a shockingly easy experience to book a doctor's appointment on ZocDoc. I mean, it feels almost too good to be true, especially given the hoops we have to jump through to even find a doctor that accepts our insurance, much less make an appointment and find a time to go see them. I mean, it has almost this sort of surreal feeling where you almost don't trust it as a consumer. I have to say, if I hadn't been a TechCrunch reporter, I'm not sure I would have used it. Most of my friends don't use it. I feel like whenever I try to tell someone to use it, they kind of don't trust it. I mean, do you feel like there are these hurdles to getting people to use it? And is there any sort of network effect that's starting to happen?
Absolutely. So obviously, healthcare is probably the most personal thing that we all have. And I remember back in the days, 12 years ago, when I taught my mom how to use Expedia. She didn't really believe that she was, without getting her paper ticket in her hand, that she was really going to be able to step on the flight. So there's obviously time that's required in any of these things. But if you look at the markets and different levels of maturity, in New York City, it's very different than pretty much any of our expansion markets, because we've just been there for almost 4 years. And if you look at New York, the vast majority of people that you would expect to be booking online are, and they're booking online on ZocDoc. So from our perspective, it's just a matter of time for enough people like yourself to book their appointments, to tell their friends, look, it really works, and it's a great service, and hopefully that'll carry us through our national expansion.
Mm-hmm. Any plans to juice that through any kind of promotions, advertising campaigns? I mean, we just saw, a couple weeks ago that, Super Bowl TV ads are back for .com companies.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't know if a Super Bowl ad is in our work.
That might be a bit extreme.
Yeah, it might be a little extreme, but maybe the Dr. Oz show or Oprah. But seriously, I think we are looking for multiple ways to get our name out there, because quite frankly, consumers love the service. We get emails literally every 15 minutes from a patient who found a doctor when they couldn't find one in any other way, and how we help change their lives. And for us, getting that word out there, it's an interesting business challenge, right? Because people don't book their doctor appointments every day. Mm-hmm. You go maybe 4 to maybe 8 times a year, and it's sort of a maximum situation for the average consumer. And so it's not the kind of thing where you can really have a call to action, hey, call this number now and book the appointment. So to some extent, we have the nature of the service is such that we have to make sure we're not wasting marketing dollars.
Mm-hmm. What about other markets? I mean, you guys have been, pretty aggressive about going in. You obviously want to go in right, but still, you're only in 6 markets several years down the road. Does that start ramping up and accelerating at some point?
Absolutely. To put it into context, 18 months ago, we were only still in New York. And it was basically 15 months ago that we launched our first expansion market. The expectation is that we want ZocDoc to be in every major metropolitan area in the United States within the next 18 months.
How many cities is that?
I think the top 20 metros.
Okay.
We want to be in all the top metros as soon as possible.
Okay, great. Are there any weird union, industry association rules, sort of legacy things, either different state or local laws when it comes to the medical profession that makes expansion into some areas more tricky than others? Or is it just a matter of saying, this is the market we want to go into, dedicating some time to figuring out and kind of, getting those doctors involved and then putting up a site?
Interestingly enough, so there's a couple of markets that are a little bit different. In California as a whole, is different just because the payer mix, the places where people go and get access to care is different than in other places. But fundamentally, I think that the basic tenet of ZocDoc, which is let's make it easy to find a doctor pretty much any time with any type of doctor is a need that people universally have in this country. Mm-hmm. And if you broaden this to think about healthcare reform and the challenges that we would expect if healthcare reform goes through, there's going to be even longer wait times for pretty much every type of doctor in every city in America. So given that universal need, it's pretty clear that, yes, there's differences in each of the markets we launch in, but it's pretty clear that ZocDoc is something that everyone in America could benefit from. So we're trying our hardest to bring it to everyone.
Mm-hmm. And what about money? I know you guys have some pretty high-profile backers. Tell us how much you've raised, and are you running out of cash, or are things going well?
Things are going fantastic. We raised $20 million. Most of that came in the last 6 months. So at least from that perspective, it's easy to sleep at night knowing that we'll be able to fulfill our vision of taking ZocDoc nationwide.
Okay, great. And then give us some growth numbers. I know you mentioned New York is a big market. In the markets that you've expanded to within the last 18 months, what are you seeing in terms of growth?
Well, ZocDoc has had double-digit appointment growth in pretty much every market since launch. What I can say is system-wide, ZocDoc grew 42% last month. So things are going fantastic for us, and we're doing as much as we can to keep up with that growth. We're hiring very aggressively. We're very proud to say that we were named the #1 employer in all of New York City a few weeks ago, and it's helping with that. But we really are trying to hire to staff to fill the demand that we're having for the service these days.
And 42%, that's in appointments booked?
Absolutely.
And so do you have enough inventory still? I mean, the big advantage is you go on and there's a million appointments you can find right now. As the bookings go up, are you adding enough doctors so that that's still there? And do you add too many doctors so then the doctors feel like, well, we're on here, but we're not getting any appointments? Yeah,
it's a very interesting question, and it's one that we think about all the time. I think that given the nature of our service, we have to make sure that we bring on doctors in the right numbers in the right areas. So we're constantly looking at this network, if you would. We have a room in our office that basically looks like the Houston Control Center of NASA, where we're constantly monitoring the appointment volumes and to make sure that we have the right demand. And then if we don't have enough doctors in a certain area, we make a very big push to go get them. So quite frankly, that's one of the areas that we're hiring probably the most aggressively is for salespeople. Mm-hmm. And the kind of salespeople we have at ZocDoc have to be that distinctive, because it's not just that we want to bring on an ENT doctor in the LA market. We want to bring on, Dr. Jones in Beverly Hills at this cross street, because that's where people are looking. Mm-hmm. And so that's the extent of how we micromanage this effort. And that's why we've been so calculating in terms of measuring or being very measured in our expansion to make sure that we don't take on more than we can chew.
Mm-hmm. And what about your customer service center? You must pay them quite well. I mean, it's definitely not an outsourced customer service center. Yeah. Is it in New York? And is that a big cost center for you guys?
Yeah, so we view actually customer service as the #1 marketing spend for the company. We know that in healthcare, it's probably one of the biggest opportunities for people to have a wow experience. And typically, if you think of having a wow customer service experience, you might think of Zappos or JetBlue or Southwest Airlines or the Ritz-Carlton or some Nordstrom's. And no one's really done it and cracked the nut in healthcare. So one of the key tenets to our strategy of building a company that grows virally is to make sure that everyone has a fantastic experience with ZocDoc. So actually the customer service team sits right in front of my cube back in New York City. They're based in Soho. Which, if you looked at it from a cost perspective, it's the farthest thing from outsourcing. It's probably the most expensive real estate that one could have. But we love that team. I mean, they're the beating heart of ZocDoc. They basically, every single person on our customer service team lives the ZocDoc brand.
Yeah, I had an experience with you guys where I'd tried to go to a dermatologist in San Francisco before and literally had to wait 3-6 months if I can even find a directory of them. Everyone I asked, no one knew one. So, went and booked one on ZocDoc, got like an appointment the next morning, and they had to reschedule. And so someone from your call center called and was incredibly apologetic and gave me a $20 gift certificate to Amazon. Now, be honest, is that because I write about you guys on TechCrunch, or you actually treat everyone that well?
Absolutely not. I think you could go on Twitter and you'd see people having similar experiences. In fact, I'm embarrassed that you only got $20, to be honest. But the thing about it is that early in my career, I worked at Disney World when I was in college, and one of the things they really hammer into you is that you have to take anytime someone has a potentially bad experience with your service or your theme park, you want to make sure that you turn that person around. And so we've inherited that value at ZocDoc, and it's something that we hold ourselves to. So every employee at ZocDoc is empowered to do everything in their power to make sure that the patients have a fantastic experience and get the care that they need when they need it.
Mm-hmm. What did you do at Disney World? I always had this fantasy when I was young of being Snow White.
Yeah, I actually was a lifeguard at Blizzard Beach, which is one of their water parks. And one of the things that was probably the most humorous about that whole experience is that over the course of the summer, I got so tan in my first month, they actually offered me a 10-cent an hour raise to be Aladdin in the theme park, which I turned down, unfortunately.
What's wrong with you? You would have been a great Aladdin.
Yeah, I know, but I can sing actually a little bit, so I think that I may have been a decent Aladdin, but I think fate had a different path for me.
All right, so if people are watching this and want ZocDoc to come to their city, how can they harass you into it?
Well, they can go on ZocDoc and run a search for their doctors, and if we're not live in their city, they have a pop-up that will let them easily vote for our expansion. And whichever city has the most votes in the next coming months, that will be our next ZocDoc expansion market. So we encourage everyone to start using it, telling their friends about it, and coming on and voting.
All right, great. Cyrus, thank you so much for being with us today.
Sarah, thank you so much.